What you are about to see is one session of a series of remote viewing sessions that were conducted in November 2024, where the focuses are on the leadership of Iran, both in December 2024 and in July 2025. Now, we are releasing these sessions in February 2025 because they appear to directly address what we have seen in the world recently, as well as giving us a window into near-term future thinking of the Iranian leadership. Now, looking at the way people think in the near future gives us an idea of how world events will transpire in that same near future. Now, we focus on two people. The first is Ali Khamenei. Now, he's the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. He's a religious leader, of course, and he is the ultimate authority in Iran. Now, the second person is Masoud Pezeshkian, the current president of Iran and the leading civilian politician. So we have a window into the dynamics of the religious as well as a civilian political thinking of Iran currently. It is important to remember that starting in early December 2024, the Assad government of Syria collapsed, and Syria was invaded on multiple fronts. The prime instigators of this were Turkey and Israel. Indeed, Israel invaded much of Syria during the collapse, and Syria is now essentially split up into various sections. Now, under the Assad regime, Syria was a strong ally of Iran. Most of the supplies and weapons that Iran sent to both Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon were shipped through Syria. People involved in training both Hamas and Hezbollah also traveled through Syria to and from Iran. Indeed, without the help of Iran, Hamas and Hezbollah would not have been able to offer much of a threat to Israel. The collapse of the Assad regime changed all of that. Territories were shifted and routes of supply disappeared in just a few days. Now, the remote viewing sessions conducted for this Deep News project were done in November 2024 before the collapse of the Syrian government. So this project gives you a great opportunity to see how remote viewing can be used to see elements of the future without being able to know exactly how those elements come to be. But given the changes on the ground, so to speak, this project also gives you a window into the near-term thinking of the Iranian leadership. And with that, we can make educated guesses as to what is going to happen in much of the world between now and July 2025. I want to invite everyone who is watching this Deep News project involving the Iranian leadership to chime in, to voice your opinions about what you think is going to happen based on these results. Again, the session that you are about to see is just one of 5 sessions that we obtained for this project. So stay tuned through February 2025 for the other sessions. Also, I encourage all of our audience to watch the huge library of projects that you can find at FARSIGHT'Prime.com, our streaming service. FARSIGHTPrime.com is cutting edge and technically equivalent to any of the major streaming services. All of our major projects are contained only on FARSIGHTPrime.com. The world is changing at a breakneck pace currently, and you need to understand the complexities of these changes so that you can make sense of it all. Also, our subscribers on FARSIGHTPrime.com are our only source of revenue. Bringing you these projects every month is not cheap. And without your support, we would not be able to continue, and you would be left with only the mainstream news. The same mainstream news that invests most of its efforts into controlling you by hiding the important news from you. At Farsight, we want complete disclosure, and that means the end of all secrecy. We don't want to control you. We just want you to be told the truth, all of the truth, unfiltered by those who think they are smarter and better than you. Looking at the state of the world today, we all know how badly that turns out. The time will come when Farsight will be a household word known worldwide, and you make that happen. Your support now for FarsightPrime.com is fundamentally responsible for manifesting the future where the hostile control ends and true freedom begins. The viewer for the remote viewing session that you are going to see now is Kahmia Dunson.
Hi everyone and welcome to Deep News. Here we have Kahmia and, well, Kahmia, how about we just jump right into it? Why don't you let us know some of your initial target perceptions?
So I have a subject here on the base surface. Something about this subject does feel unnatural though. They seem to be on land, and there's a lot of natural colors too, like greens and browns and some blues. I do see some grays as well. There's loud sounds, there's man-made sounds. I see a subject that kind of seems to be like sitting down or kind of, like stationary. There's a few subjects around here and a lot of masculine energy. And this does feel like a focused gathering.
Great. Okay, so what else did you get? You started moving on to your flash sketch?
So in this first flash sketch, I have some structures on the base surface and then some more distant structures on the base surface. So there seems to be, subjects on the base surface kind of all about the distant water there. And then there's some sort of hard man-made structure, like in the sky. I see a lot of foliage here as well and some subjects kind of hanging out.
Great. And then your next flash sketch?
Okay, so for this flash sketch, I have a lot of surface structures. They seem like really big and compact together, kind of like a city. And then there's this dark thing above all the structures that seems to be kind of raining down on the city. And then there's a lot of subjects on the base surface as well, kind of gathering together.
All right, so then we moved on to focus 1, and I see you're moving into focus 1 with regards to subject A at time W. So what happened there?
So at this point, there's a base surface, and then there's a subject outside of a structure. There's other subjects nearby as well. There's a male subject that seems to be dressed in a business casual type of manner, and they feel very concentrated and like they're very focused. I hear a lot of talking and voices. It's pretty loud here as well. I see like tans and browns and warm undertones of the skin, and it's kind of dark on top of the subject's head.
Great. Okay, great. So then you have a flash sketch of this subject A. Why don't you just describe what you got there for what the subject looked like?
So basically, this subject kind of has like a slimmer, slender-looking face and some sort of eye cover-up thing because it looks like their eyes really dark. And then they have this smooth, black or dark-colored object on top of their head that I've called a head hat. And then it seems like they have kind of just like a very smooth-looking face as well.
All right, interesting. So then we have subject A, plan AW, and then you were doing a deep mind probe there. So what did you get there?
Okay, so here I'm feeling a deep, like a deep hole or something, like being like energy being dragged down. Just feels very heavy and deep. And then it feels like it's a downward heavy movement, just kind of like falling down, crushing down, something like that. And then there's subjects that feels like very confident about this plan and they feel proud of this plan. So it also feels like some of the subjects feel like they will be collaterals to this plan, like they're kind of hesitant. They know they're kind of just going to be like, heavily affected by this plan. And then this subject believes that this will positively affect and change things around them. Many subjects involved, affected. I wrote that there feels like a massive but like centrally plan, if that makes sense. Like it's very centered. Wherever this happens is happening at this place for a reason. And then there's subjects being moved and forced around. I deducted evacuation. And then also it feels like some subjects feel like they're going to die or be, die and be collateral damage or collaterals to this plan as well.
All right, interesting. So then we moved on to focus 2, and you were investigating subject B at time W. So what did you start getting there?
At this point, subject B feels very uneasy and anxious. they're on the base surface and they're surrounded by other subjects. They all seem to have this uniform look, dark colors, blacks and blues. Male subjects here, I see like those big brown or big black eyes, kind of like eyewear. I kind of see them on every like subject's face. So on this page, my subject kind of looks like they have a rounder face, a more prominent nose, and some facial hair. This subject also seems to have something on top of their head that is of a dark color and some sort of eye cover up, like glasses or something. And then they seem to be more like uniformed, look together. They got something kind of sitting on like the left or right chest of their outfit.
All right, so what about subject B with regards to plan BW within the Deep Mind probe?
So this one feels a little more shallow, like not as deep as the other plan. Maybe not as prepared or thought out. It feels less like an attack and more like they would prefer to use like less aggression. So maybe a little, hindrance, but also knowing that just something needs to be done. More underground, I wrote, or more behind the scenes, mental on the defensive side. So this plan feels more like, trying to save face maybe, like just being more on the defensive than the offensive side. And then I sense a lack of confidence and some uncertainty here. It feels like the subject senses the amount of losses they are going to endure as well. And then I also wrote that they care about the immediate surroundings / subjects.
Okay, so then we moved on to focus 3, and you went to subject A at time Y. So what did you start getting there, moving to subject A at time Y?
So subject A is feeling deep loss. They feel like hurt and upset and angry, a sense of just rage or very emotional. Subjects on the base surface surrounded by other subjects, but they feel alone, like they're not surrounded by subjects they know, kind of. Just feels like they're in a crowd of subjects, but also kind of looking around a little lost or something like that. The subject A feels like sick or disgusted, I wrote, and then the subject is not happy at all. It doesn't feel like they feel defeated. Like they feel confident in themselves, but not happy about what's happening around them currently.
Interesting. Okay, so subject A with regards to plan AY, and then you went into a deep mind probe.
So here, subject A seems to be lacking confidence again. There's lacking confidence, hoping for the best, uncertainty. They're putting on a good front. They look confident on the outside, but on the inside, it's not feeling that way. It feels like the subject is on the defensive side, like they're counteracting other events, pushing through, not giving up / giving in, I wrote. So kind of maybe persevering or trying to really not give up. Yeah. Feels like loss for this subject, and they feel very emotionally and physically bad or, down. And then they're standing their ground and a sense of stubbornness coming from the subject as well.
Okay, so now we have the final focus for this session, focus 4, and you started it off by going to subject B at time Y. What did you get there?
So here I'm on the base surface. This subject is surrounded by other subjects. They feel happy or like they are satisfied. Still feeling a sense of great loss beneath this sense of happiness. It's kind of like they're happy, but they also experienced a great loss. It feels kind of quiet here as well, like the calmness after a storm is what I wrote. But subject B physically feels okay.
All right, and then you have subject B, plan BY, and then you're going into a deep mind probe.
Here I wrote that it feels like content, or subject B feels kind of at peace, like they have an understanding. It doesn't feel like they've won or lost, but they do feel a little hurt and disappointed. Subject B feels for the other subjects / civilians surrounding them, and it knows that it could have been worse, but is happy with the outcomes, what I wrote. A sense of sneaky, infiltrated, like they know the inside or have a way inside. It feels like underground movement or like a surprise. Something is seen on the surface. What did I write? I wrote that I see kind of something on the surface, so I drew a bunch of little squiggly lines underneath this kind of surface line, and there it's like this unseen movement. There's a bunch of movement underground, and then kind of like things you can visually see are these, I don't know what I want to call them, a little flower type looking energetic cloud things maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Energetic clouds. Okay, great. So let's you ready to hear the target?
I sure am.
All right. So the target for this one is basically the leadership of Iran and its plans with respect to Israel. So let me hand this over to you. So basically you have a subject A, Ali Khamenei, and he is the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and he does have a hat just like as you described in your subject A drawing, and he often wears glasses, and he's got quite a bit of facial hair, but he's very similar to what you described in your subject A drawing. And basically we had focus 1, which is basically Ali Khamenei's thoughts with regards to Iran's plan regarding Israel at time W, and that was pretty much right now, December of 2024. And then we have subject B, and subject B was Masoud Pezeshkian, he is the president of Iran, so they're both big leaders in Iran. And Masoud Pezeshkian, he does have shorter hair on the top of his head. He's not often seen with a hat, but he does have a little bit of facial hair, and occasionally he does wear glasses. And Masoud Pezeshkian, we wanted to see what his thoughts were as another big leader in Iran as time W, which is December of 2024. So that pretty much sums up focus 1 and focus 2, which is going into both of those leaders' minds and finding out what their plans were with respect to Israel. And then for focus 3 and focus 4, we wanted to revisit their minds in July of 2025. And that's when we wanted to see if there was any changes, and if we could see their emotionality, maybe we would get an idea of how this future is going to shake out as those countries are increasingly antagonistic towards each other at the moment. So, yeah, that's what the session was about. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Questions, comments is that's really interesting, and I'd like to kind of see how it all comes together and see how accurate it is, and it's kind of scary, but also. It is what it is. I'm not really too in tune with what's kind of happening over there, So this is kind of interesting to know that this is what I saw in my remote viewing session when I don't really know, what's all going on.
That's actually a good thing, I would say, because it really is a testament to how we're trying to be as blind as possible to the session data, and this means that this is probably a very unbiased assessment of what's going on over there, as well as it's interesting looking at your data, because it does seem like in focus 3 and focus 4 we see generally negative feelings in terms of the concept of being victorious in whatever conflict that they're involved in. So I'm imagining that we're going to see an uptick in hostilities as the next 6 months go on, and it probably will be something that, as your focus 3 has shown, is going to be very angering to the supreme leadership in Iran, and I'm expecting them to hold their ground, because your focus 4 seems to show that Masoud Pezeshkian, at least, doesn't feel like he won anything, but he does feel like he's still in the game. So that was an interesting focus 4 at the least. So yeah, let's find out what happens by looking at the more mainstream reporting. But this is a really great way to get some extra information from these leadership subjects' minds with regards to future events.
I agree. Y'all gonna have to let me know what happens, you know?
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, any final questions, comments, closing statements?
No, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody else, for watching.